Hey there, I'm Lee Blue. I've got a question for you. And it might sound a little unusual at first, but let me fill in the details and then let's see what we think. The question is, have you ever created something of value? In other words, have you ever created something that somebody paid you money for? Now, before you jump to an answer, let me kind of clarify what I mean by created. I don't mean, have you ever done something that somebody paid you for? I also don't mean, do you have skills that people have hired you for? I mean, have you actually created something that people bought? Now, to clarify even further, an example, like all Uber drivers kind of satisfy those first two things. Like they do something that someone pays them for and they have a skill, right? Like the thing that they do is they give people rides and the skill that they have is they can drive. And so they drive the cars around, right? But they didn't create Uber. Do you see the difference? Like they are performing their skills. They are delivering a service, driving people around, but they didn't create Uber itself, right? So what I'm trying to distinguish between here is the difference between being hired because you have skills to do a thing where you're kind of like in implementation mode, as opposed to creating something that has intrinsic value. And the reason I want to ask you that is because when you create something that people buy, like something that you've produced, it's incredibly rewarding. It's an incredibly rewarding experience to do something like that. And I wanted to see if I could kind of bring like a little bit of a blueprint to the table today to help you do that if that was something that you wanted to do. Now, it's totally, you don't have to do this, by the way. Like, there's nothing wrong with offering services and trying to do a good job kind of meeting the needs of the client. But the difference boils down to leadership. If you're creating something of value, you're bringing the strategy, the leadership. You are the one really in charge of the results. Whereas if you do it the other way and people are just kind of hiring you for your skills, you're kind of in implementation mode and the client is leading the project. Now, if you want to build something of value, there's basically two things that you can do. Like in the world of web design and kind of online marketing and stuff that we do, there's basically two ways to build something that's valuable. One is you can make products. And products would be like an app or a plugin or WordPress theme or something that you build. And then you can sell it as many times as you want without having to build anything new, without having to develop any new features or anything. It's just kind of an off-the-shelf product. So that obviously would have value. The other thing is what I refer to as solutions. And a solution is what I define as basically your skills plus a strategy that equals some kind of an outcome. I don't mean just being hired to do skills. Most of the time, web designers are kind of hired because they have a certain set of desired skills. The client comes and asks you to do the skills, and that's kind of the thing. I'm talking about a solution where you have a target market in mind, the outcome that market wants, and then you've got a plan to actually bring that together. By using your skills and your strategy, you can combine those two things, and you've got something of value there. Now, obviously, there's other things that can have value too, like the business itself. But the reason I broke it down to just these two things is because, for example, if you make a product, well, the product's probably owned by your business, and then the business has value due to the value of the product. Same thing with the solution situation. But most of the time, web designers don't have a business that has value any more than the value is kind of intrinsic to them. For example, like if you left the business, you kind of take the value with you. I think sometimes people call it like the Tony Robbins effect, where like if Tony Robbins leaves the conference, then the conference loses all of its value because you kind of want to see Tony Robbins or whatever. So web designers, I feel like, kind of fall into that category where it's like the value is you. Like you are the value. And if you were to then leave the company, then you kind of take the value with you, which means you don't really have a business that has value. You just have valuable skills, and the skills are stuck on you. And if you then leave, you bring the skills with you, and then the business has no value, which means you can't, there's no exit strategy there. Like you can't sell the business unless you have some stuff that actually does generate some value, like products or solutions that have like recurring revenue and clients that pay over time and stuff like that. Now, I want to introduce you to a couple of extra concepts that I've been thinking about over the past few weeks to really bring clarity to this. And one of them is that context and outcome dictate value. So like if you don't know who it's for, like the context, and you don't know what the result is you're trying to create, you can't really determine whether or not the thing has any value yet. You need to know both of those two things. For example, if you're not focused on the context or the outcome, then you just have skills. And then you have to say, well, are skills valuable? Well, yeah, skills are definitely valuable, but there's a qualification on that. The more easily available the skills are, the less valuable they become. Remember like 10 or 15 or 20 years ago when people were building websites that were like a 5-page WordPress site today? If you could have put that functionality into a site like 10 or 15 years ago, you could have made like $50,000 to $100,000 off of what people are basically charging like $800 for today. So what I'm saying by that is because of all of the changes that have happened where it's just so easy to put a website online, the skill of putting a website on the internet is becoming less and less valuable. And so then you think, well, why would somebody pay more for a website than something else? And it's go, well, is it going to bring results? Like, are you going to get sales or leads? Or you have to know the context and you have to know the outcome. Like, what kind of site are you building and who is it for? Is it an e-commerce site? Are you trying to build a funnel? Is it like some kind of a course? There's so many. You have to know the context and you have to know the outcome in order to be able to decide if the thing is valuable. And here it's when you really dig into it, I think it becomes pretty obvious. For example, is a hammer valuable? Well, yeah, if you want to drive a nail, but what if you're thirsty? You can't drink the hammer, right? So it depends on what you want to use it for in order to be able to figure out if it's something that's valuable. And so then I said, okay, well, how can we quantify it? Like, how do we know, like, how can we look at what we're doing and determine if it's something that can actually hold value? And I've come up with this concept that I call the triangle of value. And the way that I came up with this idea is that if you want to hold something, you have to have at least 3 sides, right? You can't hold something in a line and you can't hold something in 2 lines. You got to have 3 lines in order to enclose an area. And I think that that's really kind of a coincidental analogy in this whole triangle of value thing. Because you have to know 3 things. You have to know who is it for, which is like the target market. You have to know what's the result, like the outcome that you're trying to create. And you have to know how to do it. Like that's the strategy, right? And if you can do those 3 things, you've got something that can hold value. And it can be a couple of different forms. It can be a product, right? So like an off-the-shelf, let's say it's a help desk WordPress theme of some sort that helps you keep track of support tickets and all that stuff. It's like, okay, well, we know who it's for. We know what it does. It does, and you know how to do it. So you've got all 3 of those things in a product. It could be a solution as well, like a combination of your skills and a strategy, like how to increase the test drives at an auto dealership, or how to get a real estate agent a bunch of leads, or how to do, you got to know who it's for and what the outcome is. And then when you have those 3 things, then you know that you have something that holds value. So what you should do is you should look at what you're doing and decide if what you're doing is actually what you want. Because most of the people that I talk to want to build a business that holds value, but they're actually just job hopping. They're actually just taking on random jobs. Whoever calls up, you get a referral from somewhere, or somehow you find a lead and you find out what they want, and then you just kind of do a thing on demand. And the problem with that is you're in implementation mode. It's very competitive. It's very difficult to get the leads because you're saying all the same stuff as everybody else, because all you can really do to market your business is talk about the skills and services that you offer, like web design, branding, social media management and stuff. And that's the stuff that everybody says. And the client hasn't had a chance to work with you yet, so they don't know that you're better than everybody else. And so we're talking about lead generation and marketing, but we're also talking about pricing. Because if the price is going to be related to the scarcity of the skill, you have to think to yourself, okay, well, how scarce are your skills? And I think if you do an analogy, like the difference between like a dermatologist as opposed to like a primary care physician, it's like, well, who gets paid more? Well, not the primary care physician, not the general practice guy. It's the dermatologist that gets paid more. Well, why? Well, a couple of reasons. One, the skills are more scarce. There's not as many dermatologists as there are primary care doctors, but they have the triangle of value going for them. They know who they serve, which would be like basically people concerned about the health of their skin. They know like what the outcome is, like skin cancer prevention, and they know how to do it. Like they are pros at early detection and prevention of stuff like skin cancer. Like they have that triangle of value, whereas the primary care physician is like, hey, what's going on with you today? Like they don't really have that there. It's much more broad and generic. And so what does that mean about pricing? Well, it means that if you have that triangle of value and you've got a scarcity to your skill set, and you've got a solution that really makes something happen, you can begin to market your business based on the outcomes, right? Like you know who to talk to, you know what they want, you know how to get that, and you can wrap your marketing around all that stuff instead of, I do web design, I do branding, I do logos, all of the common stuff that everybody else says. And that makes a huge difference in your business. And when I say huge, I can quantify that. Like I'm going to say 10x huge. Like you can go from $1,500 sites to $15,000 sites when you put this triangle of value in place and create what I refer to as a solution first agency. A solution first agency. That means you have the solution first, and then you go out and get the clients who want that solution. Whereas most web designers have a solution last agency, where they don't even come up with the solution until the very last part, which is like the first part is you try to get leads. You run all around trying to find leads from somewhere. And then the second step is you try to figure out what it is that they want. And then the third step, the last step, is you try to come up with a solution. And you can't find leads like that very easily because it's so competitive. And then you can't charge a very high price for that because the client is feeling like the likelihood of success is relatively low, because the result is like this one-off creative process. Like, how do I know if that's going to work? Like, maybe it is. I don't know. But it's just a one-off creative kind of a thing. Whereas like if you've got a system that's reproducible that you know works, then the client feels like they have a much higher percentage chance of success. And that's why there's so much more value in a solution-first agency as opposed to a solution-last agency, which is what everybody else is doing. So all of that is to say that you don't have to do something like this. The only reason I'm mentioning all of this is so that you have clarity on what it is that you think that you're doing. Because I talk to a lot of people that think, hey, I want to build a business and I want the business to make a certain amount of money and I want to have this lifestyle and freedom and all these things, only to find out that what you're really doing is actually getting the short end of both the self-employment stick and the work for somebody else stick, meaning that you kind of just job hop all around. You're in implementation mode. You're basically acting like an employee for a bunch of different businesses, but you're not getting paid vacation. You're not getting any medical insurance or you're not getting any of the benefits of being an employee, but you're not building any value in the business either. And so if that's where you are, I strongly want to recommend that you think about what's actually happening in your business and then decide which of the two paths you want to go down. Like, do you want to create something that holds value with that triangle of value? Where you have the target market, the outcome, and the solution. You kind of bundle all of those things together. Or would you rather go work for somewhere else? Like, would you rather go work at an agency and just perform the skills? Kind of like the Uber drivers that are driving the cars. Like, they're not creating Uber, but they're still providing services and skills that are valuable. And so just to kind of get clarity on that, so you're not straddling the fence and you get, several years down the road to just realize that you've kind of dead-ended. So if this is something that you want to do, then let's talk about it, because we can absolutely make it happen. Like, I've actually just recently refreshed the entire course content in DoubleStack to take you step by step through how to create a solution-first agency for yourself. And we do it together. And it's the cool thing about it is you're almost there now, right? Like, when you create your solution first agency, the whole point behind it is you take the skills you already have, but then you wrap it up in a solution. Like, you wrap it up in some kind of a skills plus strategy thing so that it creates an outcome for a specific audience. And it's not very complicated. It is hard. I don't want to make it sound like, boom, I just snap my fingers and everybody just instantly has, the business that they want and they're making $1 million. Like, it doesn't work quite like that, but it's not a long drawn out process and it's not complicated. It just involves thinking through, how can I do something useful with my skills? That's basically the whole bottom line. It's like, how can I take the skills that I have And the things that I really feel the most confident in, the stuff that I do the best, the stuff that I do kind of better than everyone else, like what is my competitive advantage? And how many of those do I have? Like maybe you've got a couple things, right? Maybe you can build websites. Maybe you also have videography skills. Maybe you have photography skills. Maybe you got a drone that takes pictures or whatever. And maybe that would be great for like real estate or landscape or something like that. And, just like maybe there's print skills that you have where you could print out brochures or patient cards or something, or menus for restaurants or something. Like there's things that you can do. We want to bundle together all the stuff that you're the best at. And then I'll show you some other stuff along the way that you can do in terms of marketing strategies and skills and stuff too, and kind of add all that up together and then have somebody buy all of that at one time with one decision. And the decision is, do you want the outcome that is created by this package? And if you do that, I think you'll find that it's much easier to generate leads. You don't really even need as many leads because the price point is literally 10 times higher. And you can do the whole thing in a couple of weeks. It doesn't take a ton of time to build a solution first agency, as long as you're following along in the process. And so I'll kind of walk you through step by step exactly what you need to do to make this happen. And now is a fabulous time to do it because in a minute, it's going to be 2022. January is going to happen. And so right now, when we're talking right here, we're about to pop into December. So we've got like a month of time, get this thing up and running for you. And then come January, when everybody's trying to start their new business and has these New Year's resolutions to do new things and do more marketing and everything, they're really looking for it. Like I've been doing this like almost 20 years, and every single year, by far, the highest volume months are January and February. Like usually starting maybe the second week in January through the end of February are the biggest by far months in terms of volume coming in for web design. And then it just kind of slowly trickles down throughout the year in this very gently downward sloping line until December rolls around. And then boom, another big spike happens in January. So like right now is the perfect time to take a couple of weeks, figure out how to package your skills together into a solution, right? Like a solution first agency. And then come January, you'll be landing some clients. And like, just think about it. Like, what if every time you landed a client, that client had a value of like $15,000? Well, how much revenue do you want to add to your business? What if you want an extra $5,000 a month? That's like $60,000 a year. You're looking at 4 clients. Like, how long does it take to get 4 clients? And you think, well, heck, if I could do 4 clients and you make $60,000, could I do 8 clients and make 120? It's like, yes, you could. Well, how high can it scale? The truth is it can scale about to $150,000 to $200,000. And then when you need to get beyond that, you need to hire more people because you're building an agency. But before that, you can easily make 10, 12 grand a month on your own through a combination of the skills that you've already got. I've got a couple of different white labeled service teams that you can have access to if you want to for ads, SEO, and for like copywriting, content writing. So the combination of any white labeled skills plus the skills that you've got, plus I'll show you some other services that you can add into the mix. You can build a solution first agency in a matter of weeks. And I'll show you how to find the clients. You don't even need a marketing budget because you don't need that many leads. You only need like 4 to 8 clients, right? So you can do that organically. So, and now's an awesome time to do it. So if this is something you're thinking about, let's just get on the phone and talk about it and see if it's going to be a good fit for you. Now, there are some prerequisites to this. You have to be able to build a pretty decent website to begin with because I don't teach the design or how to actually launch the website. That's kind of something that you need to learn on the fly, or on your own before we start. But if you're there, like if you feel like, hey, I can build a decent website and I'd really like to have a business that actually holds value, like I want to make solutions and products and stuff like that, then let's talk about that so we can kind of run you through this process real quick so you can be up and running and start landing these clients that are going to be coming in and start the first of the year. So head on over to doublestack.net/call. Now, I will also tell you that I can only work with I tend to say maybe 15 to 20 people at a time. And I've already got about 15 people in the program right now. So I can't promise that I can invite you in immediately, but what we can do is we can kind of get you on the list, right? So, and depending on how fast you book the call, you can I've got a couple spots right now, but in the event that this is something that you want to do, let's definitely get you in the process of making this happen. And if it's not, we can determine that on the call too. Like you might talk about it and be like, hey, this is not something that I want. And it's, no pressure. You absolutely don't have to do anything like this. but it's a lot of freaking fun, man. It is so much fun to create something that people buy, and then they start getting results in their business, and they're like, oh man, it's because of you that I'm seeing these results. And it's like one of the most fulfilling things in my whole life. It's like, aside from like my wife and my kids and stuff like that, it's like, this is really, really, really fun stuff. And I'd love to share it with you. And it's not complicated. It's a little bit hard, because you have to think about it, but we'll do it together. Like the whole point of this is it's a mentorship kind of a thing. You and me working together for a couple months, getting this stuff rolling for you. And I don't know any way to do it faster or to do it better than like this, where you're in a group of people all doing the same stuff. We're all working on it together, and it's a proven system that we've been doing for years now. So head on over to doublestack.net/call. You'll find my calendar pop up. Book a time that you feel like it's going to work for you, and we'll get on Zoom, and we'll do a Zoom chat at the time that you select, and it'll be a lot of fun. All right. Well, that's all for today. Looking forward to catching up with you soon. And head over to doublestack.net/call. I'll talk to you there. High five for you.